About a month ago, I started noticing a lot of content popping up about a particular YouTuber named Shadiversity and his frankly horrible takes on AI and his creepy book. You might have watched some of these videos. Controversies like these create a feeding frenzy for smaller YouTubers, basically like a huge XP boost for anyone who decides to test the waters. While these small YouTubers often deserve the exposure and subscribers, it perfectly illustrates the negativity bias, or the idea that negative events stand out more than positive or neutral events in people's minds. You probably fall into this all the time. Think about the most recent videos you've watched on YouTube, and I guarantee at least one of them has a negative subject matter. For this video, I'm going to split negativity into 3 parts: fear, anger, and sadness. Each of these are a key component to our strange economy of negativity. First, I want to clarify that despite what you might expect, I don't actually blame YouTube and other media companies for taking advantage of this quirk. I don't think they're actively promoting negative content. The YouTube algorithm is much more complex than most people think and is, in some ways, more akin to a neural network than a simple if-then program. Essentially, YouTube delivers what you want to see to you. The fact of the matter is that we are the ones clicking on videos like these and falling into negativity bias when we can change the way our feed looks based on our browsing practices. But that's a topic for another day. For now, I want to talk about the first of the negative emotions, fear. Think about times when you've been afraid while on the internet. Now, I don't mean creepypastas when you're a kid in your room alone at night. I mean fear from posting and engaging with others, fear of missing out, or fear of backlash. The internet is run mostly by a small minority of very vocal people. Odds are you are not one of them. However, you probably enjoy seeing what they have to say. When I scroll Instagram and I see something like this,
how normal people read this.
Q.
How my brain reads this.
Kwele.
I get a wicked little grin on my face because I know what the comments are gonna be. But stop. I want you to imagine that you are the one posting something. Finally, after a long time, you decide to post something that you're proud of, or maybe you're used to only getting like 5 to 10 closed friends commenting and interacting with your posts. And then you get bombarded with things like this. Sure, you can say that they voluntarily decided to put this up on the internet, but that doesn't give you the right to be a dick. Let's look at this from a utilitarian perspective. We'll assume that the world is about 50% negative and 50% positive. Every choice that you make either swings the pendulum or keeps it static. In commenting something negative, you voluntarily add a drop of negativity to the world. It isn't much, but people are more fragile than you may realize. Something like this can keep people awake at night for years. Do you remember the worst or most embarrassing interaction you've had on the internet? Odds are you still cringe looking back at something that happened to you. One of the strangest things about social media is the feedback loop. It isn't enough that they just get harassed and shamed by a few people. The engagement on their post ensures that they'll continue getting more and more people flocking to their post to gawk and insult along with everyone else. So yes, fear prevents most people from posting online despite the fact that they might actually have something very valuable to say, or at the very least are simply looking to put themselves out there and find like-minded people. One bad experience might prevent someone from hearing a word of encouragement that they really needed. Lukewarm and neutral posts are often automatically rooted out because people want to click on what strikes them right in the negativity bias. This isn't the algorithm doing this, though it facilitates it. It's us that does this. We are the ones clicking on the videos and voting with our views. In a way, we are to blame for the current wasteland that is social media. Another aspect of fear is the fear of having the wrong opinion. While the content might not directly be negative all the time, a huge portion of the internet follows just a small handful of very vocal individuals, often very popular YouTubers or Twitch streamers, and absorbs their ideas and takes and parrots them off to other communities. It is much easier to find someone that you enjoy listening to and just go along with everything they say so you can feel that you're in the right in your echo chamber than to think for yourself. The internet is starting to work less and less like a world full of hunter-gatherers, and more like a world full of large warring countries. In an environment like this, where does the individual fit in? What can one do other than listen along and play the same game? The final piece of fear that I want to talk about is fear-mongering, when someone plays up the negative aspects of something. I notice this a lot on short-form content like YouTube Shorts and Reels, which should automatically be a red flag because you can't communicate the full complexity of an issue like this in under 1 minute, and they usually don't show their sources. Often these shorts have a glimmer of truth to them, but they are communicated in such a way as to make the audience feel like it's life and death. Like everyone else knows this except you. The insidious thing about these videos is that people will often go to the comments to find a solution or accept what the video says at face value rather than doing their own research. If a video makes you afraid of your tap water, the first thing you should do is not to buy a reverse osmosis water system online like I almost did. If it's something that you're really worried about, you should research the tap water quality in your county, research alternatives, look up pros and cons, and make an educated decision. Too many people fall into the cycle of seeing something that makes them afraid and then immediately buying a solution and throwing away an old product. Not only does this lead to overconsumption and waste, but the new product often comes with its own set of problems. This internal frustration, fear of carrying the wrong opinion, or not being up to date with what popular YouTubers think is important, naturally leads to anxiety, and this in turn can lead some people to feel scornful. Resentment is a natural response to feeling trapped. When most people are getting into a new hobby, the first place they usually go is Reddit. It only makes sense. It's one of the fastest ways to find a community of people who share a common interest. The weird thing about Reddit, and honestly any online community, is how they arrange themselves into these weird hierarchies. After lurking around these subreddits for a while, you start to notice the same questions and responses over and over again. It creates a very tribal mindset and a pretty horrible cycle where a new person posts a genuine question that is seen as stupid by the subreddit. A question that automatically flags the person as being part of an outgroup in the community. Rather than being helpful and trying to bring them in, these communities often basically crucify this person as an example. Maybe they're sick and tired of answering the same question over and over again, but what I think happens is that the people who respond the most are the people who are newest to the community and feel almost patriotic about their recent admission to a new community. People who have memorized the subreddit standard responses to these questions and then parrot them off feel like they're hot shit. Obviously, this is bad. Most of the people who are actually experts at the hobby have long since left the shallow communities where their interests started. Now, it isn't fair to say this about every subreddit. Many are great and wholesome, and sometimes you get really good responses. But for every good subreddit and good response, there are like 5 toxic ones. So here's an example of one that I saw just a couple weeks ago. So this was on the foraging subreddit a while back. You can see that this person is asking if this is poison hemlock or a wild carrot. Now, poison hemlock is one of the deadliest plants in the northern hemisphere, but this person is wearing gloves and seems to be aware of its toxicity, so innocent enough, right? You would hope to get some informational replies on how to differentiate edible Apiaceae species. But oh wait, this is still Reddit, so we get responses like this. Like, come on, you can say that this is a family that should be avoided, but that isn't the person's question. It is absolutely possible to differentiate poison hemlock from something like a wild carrot, even at this stage. Now, to make things worse, this person mentions in a reply that they found this growing where a road meets the soil. Can you guess the response? Literally comically unhelpful. So yeah, don't expect to get much use out of posting online. It's possible, definitely does happen, but, you know, it's like a 50-50. One of the most effective ways to find success is to post Ragebait. One of the fastest growing microeconomies on the internet is the economy of cringe, which is often spun towards Ragebait. Now don't get me wrong, I enjoy my fair share of cringe, and I love looking at the comments and being like, holy shit. You get people saying the most vile shit imaginable, and a lot of the time it's on an account that was tiny before blowing up because of this. I think Gabi Belle has a really good take on stuff like this.
Like, what I'm trying to say is that it all comes down to accountability. And this whole movement of, like, people that are chronically online wanting to hold, like, bad people who do bad things accountable. You know, you gotta be accountable for your actions. You gotta be accountable for the bad things that you do. Yeah, of course. But is it your job to do that? No, it's not. It is not you, as a random Twitter or TikTok user's job, to hold a stranger online accountable. especially when you have to remember that most of these people that are being involved in TikTok drama these days are normal people.
You should definitely check out the rest of her video because it goes into a lot of other stuff. I think a final thing to talk about is our culture of absolutely shitting on people who think in different ways. Of course, sometimes people do need to get shit on for purposefully being awful, but honestly, engaging with them pretty much never goes well. Now again, from an outside perspective, we all love reading huge argument threads which stretch for hundreds and hundreds of insane responses, but are we really accomplishing anything? No one is going to change how they think or deepen their ideas through these shallow, petty screaming matches. When was the last time you saw a healthy debate on the internet? I don't think I've ever seen one. It just happens so fast. Something says something, maybe a sentence or two, maybe a shitty take, something really bad, but then comes the Valkyries descending from on high to slaughter this sinful individual. Like, yes, good for you guys, go at it, but are you really improving anything? People posting inflammatory stuff online want to argue. They want people to engage with them. They want to be a martyr. By engaging with them, these people think that they're performing a service, but they're actually playing right into these people's hands. So what are we to do? I don't know. I'm not made of solutions, and I don't think I'm smart enough to give a competent one. I'm just stating a problem as I see it. As for what you as an individual can do, probably just don't engage or be explicitly positive. So the second to last category is sadness, and this one is a little more nuanced than the others because it doesn't take up as explicit a place as fear or anger on the internet. Sadness, depression, and anxiety is more of a result of the following too. I want to preface this by saying I'm not blaming people's depression and anxiety on the internet. I'm saying that it plays a role in a much larger societal problem. We do pretty much everything online now. Think back to the early 2000s and 90s. Even if you didn't live through those times, you can imagine how different things would be. Let's say you wanted to figure out when a restaurant was open. A lot of the time you would have to either go and find the printed sheet in person or call. Either way, you had to have some sort of interaction with the outside world. Little things like this were part of daily life. People simply got out more and had more interactions. Having everything possible to be online has absolutely made things easier, but maybe that's not such a good thing. I think that we lose something by cutting out so much necessity for socialization. Social media is a horrible replacement because it boils down human interaction into just the most engaging bits, positive or negative, and it runs it through an algorithm that serves you only what you want. Hopelessness and depression is sort of a way of life now. These emotions can start the cycle all over again, from fear to anger and back to sadness. So for the final category, I was thinking about leaving disgust out of the conversation, but the more I thought about it, the more I see its place in all of this. I think that disgust is one of the real driving emotions behind tribalism. Sure, anger is the most obvious emotion, and fear can be seen quite a bit, but disgust is the hidden force that drives it. The outgroup isn't just scary or makes you angry. For the worst form of tribalism to work, they must actually be seen as disgusting. Essentially, subhuman trash that needs to be fought. Obviously, not the best way to facilitate a helpful discussion, is it? Now, I want to circle around to the weird economy that these social media companies have inadvertently created. Negativity bias really thrives on these four negative emotions. While we might not want to engage in the negative content or have it take up so much mental real estate, we have a hard time avoiding it. To make matters worse, successful channels and accounts capitalize on this. Again, we can't blame them, they're just human beings trying to make a living in this confusing world. But because of the way the online space is structured, we have to play the hand we're dealt. The crazy thing about the time we're living in is that our actual economy is propped up in part by media companies who rely on the negativity bias to find monetary success. So all in all, yes, obviously most social media is bad for you psychologically. Even apps like Reddit, which are community-driven, aren't the best because of negativity bias. It's just a part of human nature which we can't really escape, but we can minimize it. Social media basically inflames that side of us, causing us to be more reactive to it. We can make the choice, though, to engage less, use intentional browsing practices, and simply get off social media more. Easier said than done, of course, but with the new year, it's a great time to work on this. So yeah, I really do wish the best for you guys. If you've gotten this far, I really appreciate it. You're like the top 1%. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps me out and, makes me happy. I know that this isn't my usual content, so if you're interested in more stuff like this, let me know, and if not, you can let me know too.